Welcome to SFL Game Day Wrap-Up, Sunday edition, Week 1. The lights are back off here in the studio as we're under a heat advisory, and it gets spicy in here with all these Xboxes and all the craziness, but we got through it, and my oh my, this might have been the wildest, most crazy day of SFL action ever. It was sensational, Eric, and we're going to get into all the nitty-gritty, but right now, this is instant reaction right after all the games were happening. I think you and I are just a little bit exhausted.
Yeah, I think we're all just kind of grasping at straws right now, trying to figure out, okay, where do we start? Where do we begin with all of this? And it's a lot to take in, man. I mean, from start to finish, it's been a wild ride.
So let's begin with a record that I never thought would get broken. Back in Season 4, Minneapolis never ran. They never ran the ball. And they won a championship, and it instituted a run-pass rule in the SFL that you had to have at least 25% run plays in your book. Rocco Marconi, Hall of Famer, has kept top 5 passing records ever since for years and years and years. We're talking 6+ years, Eric, he's held the title. Well, today, Tom Pepper, reigning Offensive Player of the Year, threw for 737 yards. Only threw the ball 51 times, so it's not like he threw it 80 times. They ran the ball plenty. I think Robert Redford had about 15 carries in the game. But 737 yards, and it took him overtime to beat the DC Dragons in their first meeting between those two franchises, 55-52 in overtime. And Shabazz Synergy, the losing quarterback, threw for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns and lost. What a game.
I mean, how do you explain any of that? It's just absolutely wild. And of course, it was the last game of the week that just happened to be this game. I'm sure everybody else was tuckered out from all the other action over this week 1. And who knows? We had good viewership on that one there, but wow, just what a game. And we spoke about it a little bit, either the broadcasters or the chat. I think it was a combination of both, but saying that, hey, someone's going to score 50 points, someone's going to put up a 50 burger, and they're going to lose. And it's a shame that DC had to be the ones that lost this game, especially after throwing for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. But man, oh man, did Tom Pepper come out to play. Just absolutely insane. Rocco Marconi has the top 4 records there as far as single game yardage and passing.
Yeah, it's just an incredible accomplishment. And Kendra Hall had 305 receiving yards. That's top 10 all time in league history. Ironically enough, the man that was calling the action holds the receiving record. Damon Simeon, DR Sim, 377 yards. It was just an offensive showstopper. And Jermaine Smith, who was around, won the championship in Season 5 after Rocco Marconi went ballistic back in the day with that all-pass offense. He's got to be sick over his defense and the way they played today, because that offense was spectacular, and DC still couldn't get the win. It is just soul-crushing, heartbreaking.
There were times where you're watching the defense. Honestly, both teams did not play great defensively, but specifically DC, you're watching some of those plays. Kendra Hall is just waiting for the ball. There is not a single soul within sniffing distance of her, and she's just waiting there for the ball. And time after time, they played press coverage, and time after time, those receivers smoked them at the line. And it was disappointing to see, but it overall ended up being a great game. It was a little bit of basketball on grass, but still ended up being a very fun game to watch.
And it's worth noting that Vancouver was up 52-36, and DC scored twice and converted 2 two-point conversions, which we're going to talk about another game that a team tried 2-point conversions and it did not go well. And they got them both, and they forced overtime, by tracking down a wide open receiver as time expired. It's just nuts, just totally nuts. And Vancouver gets the win and sort of get to wipe their brow and just, oh my gosh, I can't believe we got out of that one. Canada got treated to one heck of a game, and what a way to end week one. It was just nuts.
I'll tell you what, DC gets that defense fixed, and they're going to be scary to watch because they put on some offensive fireworks for sure.
Now, they weren't the only quarterbacks that threw for a bunch of yards today. The quarterbacks went ballistic all around the league. Jack Wigmore was over 500 yards. Bryant Dynasty threw for 499 yards and lost. We'll get to that game in a moment. Johnny Pickler threw for over 500 yards. That's got to be a career high for Johnny. It was nuts. Nobody could stop passing today. It was crazy. And then, we had some teams sprinkled in there that actually had some nice pass defense. Some defenders that actually played well today, but they were few and far between. Eric, you've been in this league a long time. Have you ever seen a day like this in the league where we had, what is that? That would be 5 quarterbacks over 500 yards and then Dynasty throw it in for 6?
Close enough. Yeah, exactly. But no, I have not seen anything like this because I came into the league season 7, I believe, which was right around the time that passing rule had come into effect. So we weren't seeing quite the numbers any longer that we were, at least as far as the passing attack is concerned. We were seeing more balanced football. But, it's funny. You'll see the air raid game plan come in every now and again. But I don't think we've seen a week slate where it was all air raid all the time. Like there was not a whole lot of rushing attack from any team this week.
And outside of Baltimore and London, who really didn't try, and it's not necessarily in their DNA, a lot of these other teams, they tried. It just didn't work. Kevin Say, Robert Redford, very quiet days. We're used to seeing them, kind of erupt. BDG Hollywood, quiet day. They tried, just couldn't get him going in the run game. Just lunacy. It'll be really interesting, Eric, to see how these defenses respond in week 2, right? How can we take that away? What do we need to do in the secondary to shore things up? And again, a lot of these teams, we'd have to look at the rosters, but you got week 1 rookies going up against stud wide receivers, and some defensive backs just are not ready for prime time, and we might be seeing a little bit of that effect as well.
Yeah, that's always the second piece of the equation, right? Is that, week 1, okay, you're getting all these crazy, like, I don't think anyone gave DC a chance in this final game of week 1, but here they are.
Not in a shootout.
Not in a shootout, no, absolutely not. So it's one of those things where, okay, week 1, there's 11 more games. There's time for everybody to game plan and realize, okay, this is what your bread and butter is. This is what you actually like to do. This was a bit of a far cry. Not going to really pay that a whole lot of mind. There's just not a whole lot of game film on these teams as of yet. And, hey, these SFL ownership groups, the scouts, the coaches, they are all very, very smart individuals, and they're going to figure it out. I don't think we're going to see another week like this.
No, it was a one-of-a-kind week for sure, because now everybody's got film. Everybody's got tape on what you're going to do, and the defenses, I'm sure, will catch up. So from all of that craziness, we move to quite possibly the most thrilling 20 minutes of double action that we've had since we moved to this format last season. Atlanta-London, an instant classic. Unlike DC-Vancouver, where everybody was just running wide open and running wild, Atlanta-London was 50-50 ball city. And it was just constantly won by offensive players. I mean, just a thrilling ball game from the opening jump. I mean, from the opening start, it was touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. And it was just a lot of unbelievable plays. We had a play where Bryant Dynasty shook off a sack and completed it to Chisholm. We had tons of lead changes. In the end, London, with a non-contract kicker, kicks a 48-yard game winner to beat Atlanta 41-39. Johnny Pickler outduels Bryant Dynasty. It was the quarterback showdown that we were waiting for. And as a special bonus, Eric, we get the matchup again in 4 weeks. They play again in week 5, a rare non-conference double dip, and especially this early, too. So we're going to get to see them play in Atlanta. There's so much to unpack here, but your thoughts on the game?
I mean, where do you start? Like you said, it's a lot to unpack, and you're absolutely right. This game had it all. Really, the only thing they didn't have was rushing attack because both these teams have very impressive running backs. Robert Merrill is more of a kind of a passing game back, very similar to BDG Hollywood. Um, but both these running backs can scoot, and we didn't really see a whole lot of it. They were, minorly coming out of the backfield for receiving yards, but overall, it was about the quarterbacks all game long, and it was about the receivers making plays in
Oh my
coverage
gosh.
against very tough defenders. Like Atlanta's got a very tough defense. London has a very tough defense. So it was not like they were playing against the, rookies or, guys that had hit regression or anything like that.
Right.
It was just wild to watch, and someone had to come up on top.
I can honestly say, Eric, I can't think of a single play in that game that was bad defense.
No.
I don't remember receivers running scot-free wide open at all. It was, I mean, the plays not only by receivers but Jamal Wooding, the end of the first half with the stiff arm, the tiptoe down the sideline. Benji Matson, turn around one-handers over the shoulder in traffic. Siege Falco at the goal line catching a ball at the 2, and there were so many people in the way. The commentators, I mean, they had almost snapped the ball in the next play before they realized, holy crap, Siege Falco actually caught that pass. And it was so hard fought. I mean, Mike St. Green coming out party after being, the third receiver in Jacksonville and just not getting a lot of looks in that kind of quick out route game kind of offense that Jacksonville's been running. And I mean, it's just sensational, right? I mean, I can't even
exactly.
I can't even name one defensive player in that game. I don't know who played. Because they got outshined every place.
Other than William Davidson, who you referenced that play before, where he had Bryant Dynasty dead to rights, and Dynasty just shook him off like a what was it? A bad coat, I think, is what Josh Circle had to say on the broadcast. Cheap coat. Thank you. Yes.
And what was the snowman reference?
Oh yes, that was Frosby. Cam Frosby, the snowman,
coming in from Sioux Falls as a free agent to London, and Frosby the snowman. Great call by Josh Circle. Josh Circle and Michael Torillo getting a lot of high praise in the chat as well from their call. That's another must-see game you have to check out on YouTube this week in the archive. So 2 minutes before that happened, 2 minutes before London got the ball back after Atlanta threw a 50-50 ball in the end zone that gave him the lead back, Tulsa, with 9 seconds left, had the ball on the 12-yard line. JQ, despite 4 turnovers and kind of a mess, Tulsa a little bit of a mess at home today, but when it's all said and done, you're down by 7 with a chance to force overtime, and Q hits France, and no question on the live broadcast, that was a touchdown. But they mark him short of the goal line, and Tulsa had no timeouts. No review, game ended, refs ran off the field, and they didn't even take a look at it. Shocking. Now, the league went back and reviewed the film, and I'm putting the screenshot up here. The ball in the right hand, the left elbow down, and it's short by, blades of grass. It's short. And it's so heartbreaking, Eric, when your elbow's in the end zone, your back's in the end zone, your head's in the end zone, your butt's in the end zone, everything's in the end zone except the ball. And that's the ball in your legs is basically what happened to Jason France. Heck of a catch in traffic. And St. Louis holds on for the 24-17 win. Your thoughts on the final play and what St. Louis was able to do today?
Yeah, and I said it before. I told you off air. I'm not sure what's worse. Just getting the bad call or just knowing that you were just that close to tying the game up.
Right.
But it was a heck of a game, really, from both sides. Tulsa was a bit of a mess at home. JQ did not take care of the football real well. But hats off to him and Jason France. It was a heck of a pass over the middle, and France just cut right inside. He was right there at the goal line. And, uh, there's no explanation for how it all ended other than he was just inches short.
Yeah.
And, hats off to St. Louis. St. Louis played their hearts out as well. Christian Brown played a very efficient game, only had 5 incompletions, 1 touchdown pass. Cairo Martinez was great on the ground. Bill Cherry was great on the ground, too, the fullback, which he got a ton of volume today, which you don't see a whole lot of.
Yeah, nice balance.
Yeah, absolutely. And the defense did just enough. Garrett Winkler, toss a coin to your safety, will you? That's old Garrett getting 3 picks at his free safety spot. So St. Louis deserved it.
And Christian Brown, kind of ho-hum, but that was kind of St. Louis's MO last season, winning these kind of ugly games, and people said, it's just a phase, right? But hey, they did it again in week 1. Why can't they do it again? They have LA coming up in week 2. LA did not look good today. And then they have Baltimore in week 3 at the convention. So it's a really interesting start here for St. Louis. Took care of business against Tulsa. Now they got 2 playoff teams from last season coming up. So we'll see how they do. Okay, this might be the toughest game ball in the history of game balls. There's going to be a lot of players that had great performances that are not going to get game balls today because we only give out 2 a day. Not everyone gets a trophy in the SFL, and you just got to live with it. So game ball number 1, Eric, who you got?
Game ball number 1. I had it, and then I lost it. I'm sorry. I swear I had it, and then I lost it. MARION from the
there you go.
The Sioux Falls Sparrows coming out party. Buried in the depth chart, free agent acquisition, coming over from DC, I believe.
Yes.
7 catches, 134 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Sioux Falls in the victory today over San Diego. Great game.
They needed that. Sioux Falls, they got this 4-wide thing going. It worked pretty well. Colin Hart averaged about 5 yards a carry, got 12 touches. Tyree was efficient. Yes, it was San Diego. They went 0-12 last season, so we'll have to see how it develops. But they needed a MARION spark in this receiving core.
But San Diego looked a little bit better today.
They did, yes.
They put up a good fight today. It didn't look like the same San Diego from season 16.
They were balanced. They were consistent. Jalen Wells had a good game, not a great game, but a good game. Vasquez had a good game, not a great game, right? But there were no performances out there where you was just like, this is bad. They didn't play. I mean, if A.J. Levy doesn't get the kick return for a touchdown, maybe the complexion of that game changes. Vasquez had a great earhole throw to Optimus Klein in the back of the end zone that helped keep that game close for a while. It was a respectable effort by San Diego for sure. There are other teams that are far more worried after week 1 than San Diego.
I would say so.
All right. Well, I'm just going to take the low-hanging fruit then. I'm going to give it to Tom Pepper. Pepper's been in this league a very long time. He's thrown many touchdowns. He's had many 400-plus yard games, but I don't think that he ever imagined he would throw for 737 yards. I don't care if it was hard. I don't care if it was easy. 737 yards is stupid good. And Tom Pepper should at least get a game ball for that. At least. And honorary game ball goes to Greg Soto, who was on stats for that game. Not only did he have a pretty good game for Lone Star, even though they lost to Mexico City early in the day, but I gotta give props to our stat crew. That was one hell of a game to stat. And Greg was just tremendous on offense in that game, keeping up with everything.
Yeah, what more can I say? Yeah, there's really not anything more that you can say because you're absolutely right. I don't think that Tom Pepper rolled out of bed this morning and was like, you know what? I'm going to torch the single game passing record today. I don't think that even remotely entered his mind.
No, the record that's been here for 6 years and was
in
a different era of the SFL. Yes, I'm going to beat that too. Unbelievable. Game ball 2, Eric.
All right, game ball 2. You went with low-hanging fruit. I'll go with low-hanging fruit too. It's got to be Johnny Pickler, old Johnny UK. You know, say what you will about the guy, but he came out and he balled today against a very tough Atlanta team. And he put up over 500 yards, almost 550, 4 touchdowns, barely turned the ball over. I think he had 1 pick. No, he had 3 picks. I'm sorry. So he turned the ball over a little bit, but it wasn't to the point where it was massively detrimental. It was just good plays by the
Right.
defense. There were never any bad plays that he made, never any head scratchers, which is a far cry from the Pickler of old, because I know there's been some games that I've seen of his where you're like, where's he going with that? What is he doing? So hats off to him. Big time free agent acquisition to a team like London, who has never been in the playoffs. They're trying to finally make that next step. And he spread the football around. He hit every weapon that he could possibly have. He made the throws when he needed to. And his kicker bailed him out, and they got out on top.
And it's week 1, and you don't have any film on what they're going to do with Pickler, how they're going to use him, all that stuff. But credit the London coaching staff. They did not shy away. They said, this is our guy. We're gonna put it in his hands for better or for worse. And the best way to shut up critics is to go out there and throw for 500-plus yards and get the W.
Who want to eat a W?
That's because you can't refute that. And the best sometimes actions speak louder than words. And Pickler's actions today were tremendous, and London got the big win at home. My final game ball is going to go to, I think, probably the most underrated running back in the SFL, and that's Phoenix Jones. This guy led the league in rushing touchdowns last season. Not BDG Hollywood, not Robert Redford, not Jared McChesney, Phoenix Jones. And Phoenix Jones was the only running back this week to have over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Phoenix Jones was unstoppable. Lone Star could not stop him at all. Ray Bentley doing his thing, blocking there for his protege. And when Lone Star needed stops in the fourth quarter, they couldn't get off the field because they could not stop Phoenix Jones. And if there was one team out there today that said, to hell with all the passing, it was Mexico City. And St. Louis, for that matter. And both of them won. Both of them won their games. So huge shout out to Phoenix. I know that he's out there just, trying to market himself to say, hey, look at me down here in Mexico City. I'm doing my thing. And you are doing your thing, sir. And I noticed today you get a game ball from me. So what a day of SFL action. 22 minutes on this wrap-up. We don't normally do that. We try to give you short-form content, but oh my goodness, it was just one heck of a day. Eric is off next week, possibly back in the booth. I should be joined by Tom Welsh for the first time in studio just before the convention, and then Mike St. Green will be back in week 4. But for now, for Eric Vincent, I'm Cameron Irvine. What a weekend. We'll see you on Friday on For the Fans for week 2.